Hey guys, Ike here from Mike'sOutdoors.com. Sitting in here in my easy chair today rather than out in the shop because it's kind of cold outside. What I want to talk to you today about is I get emails all the time from guys who are like asking me questions about hunting, and they're new to hunting and they want to know what they need to do to get into hunting and what they need to buy and some tips and stuff like that. So basically I've taken that and compressed it down into this video. So I've got a list here of stuff, so you may see me looking down and reading off this list because I want to make sure I get everything, and it's kind of a long list. So the first thing that I recommend is to choose your weapon, whether it be a gun, crossbow, or bow, whatever it is that you're going to go out and hunt with, and be proficient with it. Know that weapon, know how to operate it, make it muscle memory. That's one of the things that comes with a lot of years of hunting and getting over buck fever, is becoming muscle memory. And you want to be able to pull that bow back and hit your anchoring position and look through that peep sight and be able to know which pin to use on that bow, or what do you do with that scope. And you want to know the trigger of that weapon. You want to know how to execute that shot without thinking about it, basically. So choose your weapon and become proficient with it. So practice, practice, practice. The second thing is, excuse me, I just bumped the camera, is to get some camo or some dedicated hunting clothes. It doesn't have to be camo. I've killed deer dressed like I am right now. But you want some good weather-resistant clothes and something that's going to be appropriate for all different types of the year. But it does not have to be camo. You can get away with plaid. They wore plaid for years and years and years. So get whatever you can afford to get. Get the best you can get with the money that you have to spend. The thing about your hunting clothes is keep them separated from your regular clothes. Don't wear them to work, and don't wear them out to move the cows or something like that. So your hunting clothes should be dedicated to hunting, and that's it. And we'll talk about that later, but basically you want to keep them scent free. So that's why you want to keep them separated. The next thing is a knife, and on a knife, again, buy the best that you can afford to buy. I never go into the woods without a knife. You never know when you're going to get in a situation you're going to need one. I've used my knife for, luckily I've never needed it in a survival situation, but you never know what's going to happen. I had a buddy who fell out of a tree stand and broke his back, and he laid out there for 5 or 6 hours. But if he wouldn't have been able to if he wouldn't have been hunting with a partner, there's no telling how long he could have been out there. So a knife can be a really, really handy thing to have if you get in a bind. It can also be used to field dress your deer if you have to hack away some limbs, or never go into the woods without a knife. So buy the best knife that you can get, again, and keep it within your budget. The other thing is a limb saw. You're going to need a limb saw if you're going to hunt from a tree stand, or if you're going to hunt from a ground blind. You're going to need a limb saw. So buy yourself a good quality limb saw. The best you can get. Again, a deer call. And the reason I say a deer call is you don't necessarily need a deer call to attract deer. What I use a deer call for most of the time is after I spook a deer, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But after I spook a deer, I'll use my call to actually call to them, and either if I spook a deer and they break up, I'll call to them and try to get them to think that I'm one of the deer from their group and try to get them to come to me. If I spook a deer and she goes out there and he or she goes out there and stands, then I can call to them, and hopefully I can relax them enough to make them think I'm another deer, and what they saw or smell or heard or whatever is still okay, and that they're going to be safe, so I can get them to come back in. So that's what I use my deer call for. Tree stand or a ground blind. I prefer tree stand. I hardly ever hunt out of a ground blind unless I've got my son or my wife with me. And we're actually going to two-man stands, ladder stands this year. So I prefer a tree stand because it gives you the ability to get up above the deer and up above their sight line, and it also gives you the ability to get up above the brush, and you can actually see quite a bit further. So I prefer a tree stand, but buy a good tree stand that you feel comfortable with. That's the biggest thing. If you're going to be up 20 feet off the ground, you want to be comfortable with it. And most tree stands are going to come with a safety harness. Use that safety harness. It's important. Like I said, I had a friend who fell and broke his back, and he's no longer with us. That injury didn't kill him, but it ended up, I think, contributing. So definitely use your your safety harness. Limb saw, we talked about. Bow hangers. You're going to want someplace, but go to Walmart and buy a bunch of cheap bow hangers, because you're going to forget them in tree stands, and you're going to need them for different sets and things like that. So buy you some bow hangers and use them to hang your bag on, use them to hang your call on, use them to hang your bow on. And we're going to talk about those again in a minute, but have a bow hanger. That way you don't have to have all your stuff in your lap and your bow constantly in your lap, things like that. If you can afford it, get yourself a trail camera. You only need one. I mean, you don't have to have a whole bunch of them. But again, you know, you can go to Walmart and you can buy a pretty decent trail camera for under $100. I've had some that were $50 that were pretty good. So if you go out and spend $50 on a trail camera, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. But get the best you can get with the money you have for your budget. But the thing about a trail camera is, as long as it can take a picture of a deer, it doesn't have to be a great picture, because I've had some of the cheap ones and I almost always got pictures of the deer's backside rather than their actual antlers or head or whatever. But I knew deer were in there, and I knew deer when they were moving and where they were moving from, so it helped me to get into position to be able to set up. So if you can afford it, get yourself a trail camera. And that'll definitely help you out. So now on some tips when you actually get out to the woods. Those are the things you're going to need to kind of get yourself started. But tips for actually being out in the woods. One of the first things that you're going to learn most of these through experience. So I'm just trying to save you the pain of learning these the way I did. Put your bow hanger on the side that you're going to actually grab the bow with. So if you're right-handed, put your bow hanger on your left side. If you're left-handed, put it on your right side. That way when you reach out to grab the bow, it's on your left side. You're not going to have to reach out and grab it, cross your body, and put it in this hand. So put your bow hanger on your left side. Common sense, but I found myself in that position before where my bow was on my right-hand side, and I didn't think nothing about it until it came to kind of bite me in the butt. Clean your clothes. Keep your clothes clean. Keep them in a scent-proof container or an area away from scents and contamination. And if you can't afford to go out and buy the laundry soap that's with it, just run them through the washing machine and put baking soda in there with it. Baking soda, you know, that's what my dad used when I was a kid. Been responsible for the death of a lot of animals. So baking soda works just fine. Just go to Arm & Hammer, buy you a big old box. When you throw your clothes in the washing machine, dump you a healthy amount in there, and then when you clean them, put them in your dryer, actually take all the lint out of the lint trap, which you should do anyway, but you know we all don't do that. But so there's no fabric softener or things like that in there, and actually just put them in there and with nothing in there and let them dry. And or what I prefer to do, and you can't actually do it at all times of the year, is actually the best method to do is to hang them up outside. If you've got, like this time of year, it's 32 degrees this morning, 34 degrees, something like that. So I'm not going to hang wet clothes outside right now. But in September and October, when it's still nice outside, you know, you can hang your, even today, if it gets up to 55, 60 degrees, I can wash my clothes and I can hang them outside. That's the best thing you can do with your clothes, to wash them in baking soda and hang them outside. So that is part of your scent control regimen. And the other thing you can do, and you can actually find a homemade recipe on this too, is scent killer. You can find a good homemade recipe for scent killer. You can use baking soda again because it absorbs odor. You can put baking soda and water. Use a clean water, distilled water. Go to Walmart and buy one of those. Put some baking soda in it. Put it in a spray bottle. Spray yourself down with that. There's tons of good, cheap methods to use online that you can do yourself at home. So spray yourself down with some kind of scent killer. And the next tip is, if at all possible, keep the wind in your face. And by that I mean keep the deer out in front of you and the wind in your face, and that will keep you upwind of those deer. Because if they get downwind of you where the scent is actually blowing right to them, they're going to bust you and they're going to run. And there's nothing worse than a deer smelling you. So keep your clothes clean. Keep them scent free. Keep yourself scent free. Spray down with some kind of scent free, some kind of scent killer if you can get it, or make it at home, and keep the wind in your face. That's where the trail camera comes in really handy there too, because you start getting pictures of the deer and you know where they're going to be, and you know how to set up on them at that point. So you know, I got tree stands that I'd love to go hunt right now, but I got to have the right wind for them. So only go in there when the wind is right, when you can sit in that tree stand and the deer will be out in front of you and you'll have the wind in your face. So The next thing is on your tree stand. I see this a lot, and I've been guilty of it in the past too. And if you set up your tree stand, you know where the deer are coming from. You got your trail camera out. You started patterning these deer. You know what trail they're using and when they're using it. Set up your tree stand to give yourself a 20 or 25 yard shot. Don't set your tree stand up right on the trail. You know, try to set your tree stand up. Height really doesn't matter that much. I've hunted as low as 12 foot. And I've hunted as high as 25 and 30 foot, which I don't do anymore. But I try to get 15 foot off the ground. Seems to be comfortable for me, and it seems to be pretty good above the deer's sight. But the most important thing is to put your tree stand off the trail. Do not put it directly on the trail, and do not get in the wide open. Use a tree that's wide enough or got enough foliage behind it, enough timber behind it, enough brush behind it to actually conceal you. It don't have to be in front of you. What you want is stuff behind you. I mean, a little bit of stuff beside you, maybe a little bit of stuff in front of you is not going to hurt, but you need shooting lanes. So the best thing to do is you want stuff behind you. That way you're not outlined. Just like this chair is behind me now. That's going to break up my outline to a deer, and they're not going to be able to pick me out as easy. So you want some brush or a big wide tree or something like that. So get off the trail a little bit and find a tree that's got a tree that's not out in the open. Do the best you can and get to a height where you can get some kind of concealment. So I made this mistake on the first deer that I ever shot at. I didn't know. If you see the deer coming in, try to draw before they get into the hole that you're going to shoot into. I got lucky in the first deer I killed when the deer got into my shooting lane. I actually drew my bow back and the deer seen me, and fortunately for me he stopped. But I've done that before, and I've had deer just run away. So try to pick a spot where you're going to want to take that deer and you're going to want to take that shot, and try to pick a spot before, and I try to do it as close as possible. Try to pick a spot before they get there where you can actually draw your bow back, because that is a lot of motion, getting the bow up, getting the bow drawn back, and the deer are there's a good chance that they're gonna see it. So I wait till they get their head behind a tree or their head behind some brush or something like that. And it doesn't always work out. Sometimes you still get busted, and if you do, this is where you don't want to be a He-Man and have to pull 70 pounds. You don't have to pull 70 pounds to kill a deer. So I shoot 62 pounds, because if that deer comes in and I draw back and it busts me, I may have to sit there and hold that bow, and I can hold my bow for 2.5 minutes at that, and that kills me. But I can actually pull my bow back and I can hold it for a long period of time, and it feels like forever. But eventually they'll either make the move into your shooting lane and give you a shot, or they'll hold back, or they'll draw back. But in the perfect scenario, just like the buck that I killed earlier this year, early in November, he came in, he walked behind a group of trees. I pulled back, he continued to walk at the same pace he was at, and when he came out in the open, I went "Meh," and I shot him, and that was the way it worked out. So pick a spot to draw your bow back, pick a spot to actually shoot, and make a plan when that deer's coming in so you can get your bow drawn back without actually getting busted. So that leads me to my next tip, and that is to go "Meh." You see guys on TV do this all the time. You see me do it all the time. I know everyone who does it, but when I first started hunting, I didn't know to do it. If a deer is in a shooting lane, or if a deer walks into your shooting lane, just make that little mouth call. Just when you're at full draw and you want that deer to stop, go "Meh." And that deer, 9 times out of 10, probably 9.999 times out of 10, that deer's going to stop and she's going to look. And when she does that, your arrow should be right in her brisket, right in her moneymaker, and should be time to celebrate the harvest. So draw before the shot. Another thing is, if you get a deer that's spooked, and then we talked about this a little bit earlier, if you get a deer that does spook before you get a shot, I've done this before and it works with limited success, but it does sometimes works. And if I've had deer blow at me, and if you don't know what a deer does, when you spook a deer, they'll go shh, and they'll just blow, and it's 10 times louder than that. But that means they're scared and they're going to run away. Right after you hear that, you're going to see the flag. You're going to see their tail go up in the air, and they're going to be running off. I've had deer actually go out of bow range or in the brush and actually just stand there and do that over and over again. And I'm sure if you've been spending time in the woods, you've seen it too. Usually it's a big old doe, and she'll stand out there and she will blow and blow and blow and blow and blow, and to the point where I've thrown rocks at them before to try to get them to go away. But if you get one that does that, blow back to them. Or get your call out and call back to them. Try to convince them that you're another deer. And like I said, it's a low probability of success, but I have actually had it work before. And it usually works on younger deer. But if that's what, younger deer, 2.5, 3.5-year-old does, sometimes it works on them. But those older does and those older bucks probably ain't going to fool them. But I've had deer come in, I've scared them, and I've actually, when they started blowing, I just start blowing right back at them. Or hitting a call of some kind to try to calm them down and try to make them think that I'm a deer. And the deer are curious by nature. So if I start blowing at them and I start hitting some kind of deer call, I'm hoping to arouse their curiosity enough to get them to come back over and make a shot or give me a shot. Worst case scenario, I start blowing at them, and that big old doe that's been out there for 5 minutes blowing at me and scaring every dang thing in the woods, maybe she'll run away. Because like I said, I've actually thrown rocks at deer before because they stood out there and blew for so long. I've actually picked up rocks and acorns and stuff like that and actually just thrown them at the deer before to get them to go away. So we talked about being proficient with your weapon. Another thing to be proficient at is know your angles on your deer. Don't just go out and shoot at a target and broadside all day long at 20 yards. Know your ranges, know what your longest distance is, and know where you need to aim whenever your deer are in a certain situation. One of the shots that I really like to take, and I'm actually, it's one of my favorite shots, is a deer quartering away from me. A deer quartering away from you, you can actually go through and you can actually get all the vitals. But if you shoot a deer that's quartering away from you up here behind the shoulder, it's going to go through, maybe get one lung, and probably come out the neck. And that's a high probability that that deer is going to survive. If you go that same quartering away shot and you go all the way back to the last rib, you're going to go through and you're going to hit the gut, and you're going to hit the liver, and you're going to hit the diaphragm, you're going to hit probably both lungs back in the back, and then you got a really good chance of hitting the heart as well. So as that arrow comes through, you're going to do a major amount of damage. But you got to know where to aim. Like I said, if you aim up here, that deer ain't going to make it. I made that shot on a hog. He was quartering away from me farther than what I thought, and I actually hit him up here and didn't end up killing him. I ended up having to run him down and shoot him with my pistol. But I've killed 2 deer this year that were facing almost straight away from me, and I've heard someone say that that was an unethical shot. Not really for me, because I practiced that shot, and I practiced that shot, and I knew exactly where I needed to aim. And on both those deer, I killed them. And I killed them quickly, and I killed them efficiently, and that's the goal when it comes to deer hunting. So know where to aim at any angle on a deer. So know how to get to the vitals with your bow or your gun. The next thing is to learn to shoot sitting down. And I know a lot of guys are like, well, I want to stand up when I got the deer in front of me. Man, there's been times when I've been out in the woods and I've been watching or scanning or something, and I've looked down and there's been deer right underneath me. So learn to shoot sitting down, because there are times when you're going to get an opportunity to kill a deer and you're not going to be able to stand up. And it's really not that hard. Just get you, a ground blind chair and sit down in it and start shooting. So, and if you're going to shoot out of a ground blind anyway, you need to learn how to shoot sitting down. So learn how to shoot sitting down and put yourself in predicaments. If you can, get a tree stand, set it up in your backyard, and shoot at 3D deer. And put yourself in a position where you gotta shoot. You can't just shoot standing straight up. Put yourself in a position where you gotta lean down. Put yourself in a position where you gotta sit down. I shoot off my knees. Hell, I used to shoot off my back. And it actually, you're going to think that never going to happen, but I actually got in a position where I didn't have to shoot off my back, but I had to draw my bow laying on my stomach. So I had to draw my bow laying on my stomach, hiding behind some brush, and I actually drew my bow back and came up on my knees and made the shot. And that deer's on the wall in my son's room, so it worked out great. And I practiced it. It happened one time in the 56 deer that I've killed, and one time in the 200 deer that I've screwed up on. But that one time I was able to capitalize on that. So I know this video has been long, but this is basically my advice for a new hunter. And I mean a hunter that, and maybe if you've been hunting for a while, maybe you can learn something from this, but this is my advice for a guy who has nothing. I mean, you have no weapon, you have no idea where to even start. This is kind of the basics of what you need to do to go out and harvest a whitetail or kill a deer. So I hope this helped you guys, and if you got any questions, just comment below and ask me, you know, whatever you need to know, and I'll try my best to get back to you. Please comment, or please like, please share, please subscribe, and good luck out there getting your first deer. After that, it gets a little bit easier, because as you're out there and you start learning, don't let it discourage you. You're going to scare some deer away, and you're going to screw up. Hopefully this will keep you from screwing up as much, but once you get that first deer down, it seems like it gets easier from there. So don't give up, don't get discouraged, and hopefully this will help you cut that learning curve down a little bit and harvest your first whitetail. So appreciate you guys watching. Like I said, be sure to like, subscribe, and share these videos. And for more product reviews, how-to videos, you can check out our website, ikesoutdoors.com. And for some of our hunting videos, you can check out our hunting website, which is huntwithike.com. Appreciate you guys watching.